I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Catherine Goldschmidt, cinematographer on House of the Dragon. Catherine, you're able to boast that you lensed probably the most popular and acclaimed episode of season one, Lord of the Tides. So I'm curious though, when you're about to embark on shooting this huge episode, what were your initial thoughts? What was running through your mind like the night before?
The night before, well, first of all, there were many nights because we shot over the course of, oh gosh, how many months? I started the job end of July 2021, and we did not finish until mid-February. So it's a very prolonged shooting schedule because they shoot all the episodes at once.
Wow.
And we were the only team doing one episode. So it was even sort of, it felt longer for us, but it also gave us so much time to, prep our big scenes with all the actors. And that was really, that was wonderful.
So that means that the show really does become quite a significant part of your life for quite a while. I mean, what's it like to live and breathe House of the Dragon for a huge chunk of the year?
I mean, it's an incredibly exciting and inspiring place to work because every day you're just interacting with so many different, there's just so many artists who work on a show like this, like everybody from, people who work in the costume department to the armorers to the hair and makeup designers, prosthetics, special effects. It's just, everybody brings their all to a show like this, and that just makes it such a wonderfully collaborative, environment to, create exciting imagery. So yeah, I love it.
I can imagine. Is there a method to how the episodes are assigned to different DPs throughout the production? Like, how did you end up with this one?
So it's really the director who gets to say, I want to work with this person. And so Geeta Patel was my director. She and I had not worked together before, but we met over Zoom and talked for, an hour and a half or so. And then I got the job. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of as simple as that, but then, we're back again for season 2, and it's really great to be back together working with her. We're doing 2 episodes this year, which is exciting. And yeah, it's great to feel like you have this, partnership with somebody that you can build on, in the same sort of, creative environment. It's great.
I hear that often from DPs that relationship and rapport with the director is obviously so critical. So what did you most value, or do you most value about working with Geeta as the helmer on the entire production for the episode?
I value many things working with Geeta. I mean, chiefly she is a true collaborator. She really cares about, other people's thoughts and ideas and opinions. And she sort of, she cultivates them all, and then, and then the best idea wins, if you see what I mean, or rather she sort of synthesizes it and it becomes something, something greater than the sum of its parts. So yeah, I really value that about her. And yeah, she's also just an incredibly kind and generous person who's, who really gets the best out of their team, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And it elevates everybody when the person at the top of the list is giving good leadership. So let's talk about the episode. Definitely. I want to do a bit of a deep dive. The nerd that I am, I've got certain highlights that I really want to talk about. So it opens with 6 years having passed. The Red Keep is now quite austere and grim. And reflecting this new religion that Queen Alicent embraces. So what was the most challenging aspect of lighting that huge interior set and also working with, I suppose, just from a layperson's perspective, the VFX to kind of build out the shot to make it so grand?
Yeah, well, I think the challenge for us was, so we actually started later than the other teams as well. So people had been shooting on the majority of the sets we were on. And, Geeta and I really felt that that even though the sets had been shot, you know, to the nth degree, that because, as you say, this was sort of a new era in terms of the Red Keep, in terms of Allison's, you know, taking over and Rhaenyra being gone for so long and coming back and seeing it through this new lens. So we wanted it to feel like a changed place. And we worked together very closely with Jim Clay, the production designer, and the set decorator, Claire Richards, to try to figure out, you know, what would have changed in that time. And so you're right, it was you know, under her sort of reign, it's a much more austere place, much more sort of stripped down. And we also had this vague idea that it was like a colder environment. So, you know, like that we would be moving sort of seasonally into winter a little bit.
Yeah.
So from a lighting perspective, that meant that I was sort of trying to go a little bit colder, a little bit harsher, you know, more gothic, more shadows. And that was sort of overall our general approach.
Yeah, and that it was so striking as the episode opens on that scene. And then, of course, you know, we're watching Viserys, who we've grown to love by episode 8. You know, like I heard a lot of fans weren't fans of that character, but yet, of course, Paddy Considine does such a beautiful job. He's struggling towards the Iron Throne, and it's become kind of like almost a legend that, you know, he drops his crown, and it was Matt Smith's idea to pick it up. And I'm just wondering if you can recall that day and witnessing that moment between the two actors, because it really comes off so beautifully on screen.
Yeah, that was a really, really special moment, because, you know, it was the sort of thing where we had rehearsed it a little bit, and that had never happened in rehearsal. And then it literally did just happen on the day. And it just heightened, you know, because the moment was in there that Paddy would stumble and Matt would help him. But just the added, you know, sort of imagery and symbolism of the crown falling and it being Matt who then puts it back on his head. Yeah, I mean, everybody just who was there thought like, oh my God, that's so cool. And let's do it again and again and again. And yeah, that's it.
I know, I love it. I so totally love that scene. There's also a great dinner scene where really the whole family is there at the table. It's a really good opportunity, I think, for cast and crew to witness a lot of the cast together in one room or in one space. What was that like, having them all kind of together, which is a real rarity for the show?
Well, it wound up being very special because it wound up being the very last scene that we shot in the entire season.
Right.
So when we called wrap, it was, you know, picture wrap on Patty, picture wrap on Emma, picture wrap on Olivia, picture wrap on Matt, you know, picture wrap on the whole thing. So it was really like, you know, the energy was just so sort of explosive because everybody had been working for so long and hard. And usually when you finish such a long job, you're finishing on, you know, small inserts with one person or something. This was this whole thing. So that was very exciting, you know, for us, because we just saw it coming for so long and had been thinking about it and preparing for it. It was very gratifying to just sort of see it all come together. And yeah, I mean, it's really, you know, that scene is obviously just about the relationships between these characters that have been building, you know, throughout the season. And it's the last time that everybody's all together. And so we definitely sort of thought of it as like the Last Supper and tried to, you know, stage it and shoot it a little bit in that way.
Wow, I actually did not know that. That's really, I'm sure that it's common knowledge. It's a blind spot for me. I didn't know it was the last scene filmed, and that I wonder if that was kind of done intentionally. I probably not, because that's not how these things work. That wouldn't have been the efficient, cost-effective way to do it. But it's so great that you all got to have that moment together. So that being said, what's it like when you're back on set for season 2 in Spain? I know you can't talk about any details, but has it been exciting for everyone to kind of be back and back, you know, in the swing of things?
Definitely. Yeah. No, it's been very exciting. I mean, it was a little bit overwhelming when we got to Spain because suddenly there were all these fans there that weren't there last year. So that was a little like, but yeah, no, it's been very good.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I was going to try to persuade you to give me some details, but I won't do that to you.
Thank
Maybe
you.
tell me. So I'll tell you what my favorite scene was though. Absolute number one. It's become a meme. I use it on Twitter all the time. When Daemon calls Rhaenyra a whore, and supposed nephews and Rhaenyra's three other sons bastards. Daemon just says, "Say it." He had said, "Say it," and then of course decapitates him. Was that fun to shoot? I mean, I just really have no specific questions. I just want you to talk about it because it's so cool.
Yeah, no, that was, obviously it like stands out a mile from the page, and we talked about it a lot, because that's one of those things like a beheading, not only in, Game of Thrones world, are there many instances of that happening before that it's worth sort of looking at and referencing, but also, just in terms of like who has to participate in selling something like that on screen, it's a combination of VFX, special effects, stunts, prosthetics. So everybody sort of has to get together and decide, well in advance, how are we going to do this and what do we want it to look like and that kind of thing. But yeah, I guess for us, the question that we didn't know the answer to, I don't think all the way until they edited it, because we shot it both ways, was whether you would sort of reveal Matt going for the swipe beforehand, or if it would just surprise you. And I think, yeah, the way they chose to edit it in the end with the surprise is quite cool.
Yeah, I audibly gasped and then had to watch it again because it's a really great moment. And I just love the Matt Smith character so much. So, yeah. I mean, but of course, I think if I had to choose Viserys, Paddy Considine as Viserys, it's just so impressive to me. And I read that the New York Times reported that his physical transformation over the season was so closely guarded. He had security guards and all that stuff and umbrellas. Is that really true? Or was that difficult to shoot around?
I honestly don't remember that, but
yeah.
But maybe that was just outside of my,
scope.
Yeah, my scope. But it is true that, I think that's part of the reason why some of our big scenes were last in the schedule, because, because Paddy and everyone, around him obviously wanted to let the sort of progression happen naturally. You know what I mean? I mean, it's difficult because, they did shoot episode 7 way early on. So, because they had to go to Cornwall and that had to happen earlier. But I think, yeah, just as far as how his illness would progress and how he would age and that kind of thing, that was all tracked very carefully. And it was a physical transformation for sure. The walk he does when when he comes into the throne room, that was something that, again, we sort of thought about it a lot and all the different, camera angles we'd want to get on it and this and that. But it wasn't until the day that he did it that we sort of understood, the just how it was going to be really, and how physically taxing it was for him to do. So anyway, so we tried to, get it in as few takes as possible, basically.
Yeah. Mercifully. Yeah, absolutely. As a DP on a series with other DPs and other creative people in the team, do you have much leeway with regard to the equipment and the types of cameras and rigs and so forth that you're using, or do you really have to kind of fit in with what the show provides to its creative team? How does that work?
Yeah, well, the sort of main camera and lensing package is chosen by the lead DP. So, last year that was Fabian Wagner. So that choice was already made. We are at liberty to get in new lenses if and when we need them. An example on our episode, when Viserys is sitting there at the table watching, his grandchildren sort of dancing in front of him and just being sort of surrounded by his family at peace for the first time. We had this idea that we wanted to do, a sort of in-camera zoom, which is not super traditional for the show, but we just wanted to sort of like show the world closing in on him a little bit and him just sort of, sitting there at peace. So, that was a specialty lens we got in for the day. And I think, the show is very open to you saying, for this scene, we need this. And then, and then usually budget permitting, then we get it in and we use it.
Create something amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Generally speaking, I think this episode had a lot of internal shots, but when you're doing externals versus internals, what's your preference in terms of being able to control the light or being able to use the natural light that comes from Mother Nature? Where is your mind when it comes to that preference? And do you have one?
Yeah, well, I think, when you are shooting interiors, you're always trying to make it, I mean, especially on this show, it's not always the case, but on this show, we really are striving for naturalism. And that's why, obviously, like the sources are daylight, moonlight, fire, and that's it, because that's the sort of historical period that we're in. And so that remains true whether you're on a set that is totally, fake or whether you're in the real world. And so, yeah, I guess just in both situations, we're just constantly asking ourselves, like, does this feel real? Does this feel grounded? Is this light motivated? And, because I think even if you are in a location, you can still feel this unmotivated light sometimes, you know what I mean? Because obviously we're still doing artificial things to make the actors, look good. So you still have to ask yourself that question, regardless of where you are. But did I answer your question?
You did. And the reason why, there has been some backlash especially about Game of Thrones and even House of the Dragon, that sometimes it's too dark, can't see what's going on in the action. I don't share that view, but I mean, I'm just putting it out there that some people believe that. What are your thoughts on whether the show sometimes is too dark, or whether you think that serves the story and you just go with what the creative team, director particularly, wants to do?
Well, I think it definitely serves the story. And I also think that, in this wonderful age of television, I do think that the downside is that we cannot control the viewing environment of the audience. So it's no longer this dark movie theater, people are watching on their phones in broad daylight. And that is a really difficult, like, like, so, you know what I'm saying? You can't, it's difficult to make strong, creative, dramatic choices that support all this huge variety of viewing environments. So I guess I just want to say to people who think the show is too dark, like, please turn off the lights in your living room, and you know what I mean, and make sure your television is calibrated as best you can before being cruel.
That never occurred to me, but I mean, you cannot possibly cater for every viewing experience. You just have to make the best show, and hopefully people are watching it in HD if they've got that capability, and then it's not too dark. You can totally see what's going on. I've never really got that criticism. I'm glad you cleared that up. So, final couple of questions are about the reaction to the episode. I alluded to this in the beginning, but many publications, this is not a competition, but many publications have named it one of the best episodes of the season overall, and it's the highest rated on IMDb of this season of this show. So how does that make you feel that you're a part of that? You're the one that made it look as beautiful as it is. How does that make you feel?
I mean, very proud, obviously. We worked very, I don't think I've worked harder in my life on a single hour of anything. So it's extremely gratifying to have it received so well by everybody. And, I mean, the truth is, like, as soon as we read that episode, we felt like, we had been given this huge gift, because it's an incredibly, special, well-written, rich episode where, all these characters that, they've been building, get to have their moment. And so, so we really obviously felt the weight of the responsibility of that. And I'm just hugely gratified that people responded.
And then your peers in the ASC nominated you as well. It's always nice to get a pat on the back from cinematographers, DPs who know what good work is. what's that like to be nominated by your peers?
Well, it was very surreal. Because, you know, the ASA is just, you know, something that you completely idolize your whole, you know, from when you're a film student and reading the magazine and this and that. So yeah, it was totally surreal. And you know, I'm American and I went to film school in Los Angeles, but I've lived in London now for the past 8, almost 9 years.
Wow.
And so it just sort of felt like this homecoming in a way. And yeah, it was really wonderful.
Well, Catherine, I hope that we maybe might see you on the Emmys red carpet as well. But in the meantime, congratulations on some great work and thank you for your time, Jeff.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for the chat.